Tyler just like he just take and untakes himself in like the same segment right
I know.
there. I was like, hell yeah, Jonathan Taylor should be MVP. Then by the end, I was like, wait, no, he doesn't deserve to win.
Who should the Titans take instead?
Take any of these players that
No,
are.
give me a guy. Give me a guy.
Abdul Carter.
Fair. I mean, they could use and I took the Falcons over the Patriots.
The Falcons,
just, like,
offense
spent
is the
5
biggest
minutes
disappointment in the
burying
league.
What was your first take on the show again?
But I genuinely think this Atlanta Falcons offense is the biggest disappointment of the season so far. So I think I'm dumb. I think I'm really dumb.
I don't think you fully understood the assignment, but that's okay. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to No Timeouts, a football show coming at you from the Score Studio. My name is Jonah Birenbaum. That is Tyler MacKillop. That is Dan Wilkins. That is Zak McDonald. You know them. You love them. You might notice I'm a little hoarse today. Today's going to be more of a listening and learning kind of episode for myself, but that's okay.
Were you yelling for 18 innings last night?
I've been yelling nonstop for the last 4 weeks. That's what a World Series chase will do to a man. Wouldn't wish this upon my worst enemy. I'm kidding. We live for this. All right, boys. Another week in the books, and it feels like some order was restored in the NFL this week. All the presumed powerhouses won their games. The Bills won for the first time in 2 weeks. The Eagles won a second straight game. The Chiefs got their third straight win to improve to 5-3, and the Packers won to move to 5-1-1. And not only did the presumed powerhouses win, but so did the emergent ones in Indianapolis, in New England. Chalky week overall.
Blowout City.
Yeah, right?
It was brutal.
To me, it's the capital of Indiana. Wilk, what stood out to you?
What stood out to me is the Tush push has got to go. It has got to go. Listen, I did not want to be this guy. For all the Eagles fans out there, I was on your side when the NFL opted against banning it earlier this offseason. I wrote about how it was the right move and how banning a play just because no one can stop it and the Eagles were too good at it would have been incredibly weak. And I still agree with that, but it's not even really about that anymore. I think the momentum started to shift earlier in the season when we saw those false starts go uncalled. I think there's just some really unique challenges about calling those pre-snap penalties in this specific play. Of course, refs are always bad. They always will be, but that's part of it as well. And then this week, we just had that absolutely inexcusable botch call early in the Giants game where Kayvon Thibodeau clearly ripped it out from Jalen Hurts as he was crossing the line to gain. But because the refs had blown the play dead, ruled that his forward progress had been stopped, it was unreviewable, and the Eagles kept possession. Now,
and it's completely arbitrary because a lot of times it'll seem like they've blown the play dead, but they'll still give him like on the second or third push, right?
That's the entire problem here is that like we're talking about a play where the point is that this second surge pushes him across the line to gain. In what world are we ever blowing this play dead early? It just kind of goes against everything that's been happening so far, right? So that's kind of my point is that right or wrong, it's become very clear that refs are incapable of officiating this properly. And that means that something has to change. I think that alone probably leads to a rule change in the offseason. But if the NFL needs a stronger case, you can probably just go back to last week when the Vikings laid that defender down across the parallel to the line of scrimmage. I know, T, you loved that last week. But after an offseason where we were having debates about whether this was a threat to player safety or, it was a non-football play, I don't think there was a real cases for that at that point. But now they certainly have it if they can just bring up that play. So at the end of the day, I think this would be very unfair to the Eagles. They really constructed this unstoppable play, and it's not their problem that no one else can do what they've been able to do with it, but there's no other way the NFL can handle this at this point. It has to stop because it's become a joke.
Since the start of 2022, the Eagles have converted on 4th and 1 with a tush push 96.6% of the time. They are singularly effective at running this play. Now, when I asked you last week, or when Zach did in 2-minute drill, as to whether you would ban the tush push, you said no. Are you reevaluating your position?
I think so. This is such a massive moment in this play because it's, again, we're taking something that's incredibly difficult to defend, and you have a moment where you take this play is at, like you talked about, such a high success rate, but the only thing that potentially could put you at risk is the quarterback reaching the ball and putting it in harm's way. We see it happen, and then they're bailed out in that moment, which makes this really tough. The one thing I will say, though, is banning the tush push, obviously, is the thing we're talking about, but the QB sneak is still going to exist. There's still that facet of how that play will be officiated once we modify the rules, if that happens, obviously.
Yeah, and
I'd be curious to know like what was, because the Packers I think were the one that proposed to ban the tush push in the offseason. I'd be curious to know like what their actual language was that they were voting on. Like what was it that it's like this is what we're voting against.
They just want to get rid of the push from behind. And to that point, I do think like the silver lining here for Eagles fans is that they will be just as good in short yardage for as long as Jalen Hurts is the quarterback and you have that offensive line. Like Jalen Hurts squats what, like 700 pounds or something ridiculous. Like he's the reason this works, but they inevitably will ban that push now because it's just created too many issues.
I think you're onto something. T, what was your takeaway?
There's been a lot of disappointments this year when it comes to high expectations for the Baltimore Ravens defense. I don't think everyone thought the Titans were going to be a team that, just rolled over from the season start. But I genuinely think this Atlanta Falcons offense is the biggest disappointment of the season so far. When you look at all the resources they've put towards building this offense when it comes to having probably the best all-purpose running back in the NFL right now in Bijan Robinson. They draft a quarterback in Michael Penix in the top 10 that they take that elite running back to pair with what they expected to be an elite downfield passer to make this offense be one of the most explosive in the league. That hasn't materialized. You've got a top 10 pick at wide receiver, that dual sport, freaky athlete type of player. Don't forget about Kyle Pitts. We drafted him with a top 10 pick. And then you have the Sean McVay disciple OC calling the plays behind with an offensive line that I think everyone agrees is a top 5 unit in the NFL. The numbers bear that out. It's widely regarded as such. And this team is so terribly inconsistent from a week in and week out basis. And you have to think about who's paying the price here. Is it Raheem Morris? I would argue Raheem Morris, who covers the defensive side of the ball, hasn't done a very bad job in terms of defensively. This team, I think, is pretty good against the pass. The pass rush has been good. He's had to scheme up a lot of ways to generate pressure, but I think James Pierce and Jalen Walker haven't proven to be busts, I would say, at their position. They've been decent, but this is a team that has a lot of issues offensively and across the board, and they don't have a first-round pick going into next year. It's like someone has to pay the price because this team is going to go into next season. I think the year is already lost, quite frankly, and they don't have, hey, here's a first-round pick that we can plug in, this hole we feel we have. Instead, somebody has to be, hey, you're the reason for their struggles this year, whether it's Raheem Morris, the front office. I don't know who it's going to be, but, man, this is a Falcons team that's completely lost right now.
And I'm surprised you made it through that whole rant without mentioning Michael Penix.
Yeah.
Their quarterback play has not been good.
Right.
And a lot of it comes down to that, doesn't it?
It does. I mean,
it was also Kirk Cousins this past week, so it's like
it was.
It's hard to bury them for what happened.
But I think that is
week.
Illustrative of how much Michael Penix has struggled, right?
Yeah.
And we're playing. The Dolphins couldn't stop a nosebleed against the run, and this was a perfect matchup for them without Michael Penix, and they got boat raced. Like this is
nobody's trading for Kirk Cousins at the trade deadline. He's absolutely cooked.
This is a team that has been boat raced by, I think at the time we would say were the worst teams in the NFL. Like at the time, Carolina was probably the worst team in the league going into that week.
And they shut them out.
That was a shutout.
30-0.
That's brutal.
And then Miami is just in free fall, and they beat the crap out of them.
Yeah.
Like this is a team, in terms of the steps they've taken, the investment they've made in the roster, that you should expect to be at the very least competing for a playoff spot, and should have been the division going into this year.
Yeah,
this team is lost.
I think the defense is headed in the right direction now, like you mentioned. But the rest of the season is just about Michael Penix's development, and if it doesn't take the next step, of course we start to wonder if he will get there and be the guy who's worth the number 8 overall pick, which as a reminder, was a complete shock at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the loudest I've ever yelled watching the NFL draft because I was just stunned. But if he doesn't get there by the end of this year where you're very confident in his future, I think you probably end up having to make a change at offensive coordinator to answer your initial question, because you have to make this work. Like they're all in on this core now.
Yeah.
He has more turnover-worthy plays this season, Penix does, than big-time throws. I think that's pretty telling. Zachy, you got a takeaway from this past week?
Yeah, I just obviously I think the biggest news to me for the entire weekend was Nick Mangold passed away.
Yeah.
One of the greatest New York Jets of all time. Obviously completely devastating. First thing you think about is his wife and his kids, and that was obviously such a huge part of his life. And every single account, literally every single account about Nick Mangold was that he was an absolutely incredible guy. He made everybody feel special. He lit up every room that he was in. And I think for me as a Jets fan, a lot of times fandom in general can feel like a very futile experience. You're following the ups and downs of this team. You have no impact on whether they win or they lose. But sometimes in life, you need to get to the particular to understand the broad of something. And I think Nick Mangold is a perfect player to me that exemplifies that experience, because I'm not going to focus on a center a lot of the time in many NFL games, but I got the opportunity to watch Nick Mangold tape when he was from Ohio State after the Jets drafted him. I got the opportunity to watch him play as a player. And not only was he such a dynamic physical talent, he also, when the Jets had the most success in 2009 and 2010, when Mark Sanchez was a rookie and a second-year quarterback, he gave him all the answers to the test. He was this incredibly smart guy. The effectiveness of the rest of the offensive line was dictated by how he called out protections, how he saw everything going around him. And what that did, it taught me a lot about the fan experience, because those were some of the best times of my life in 2009, 2010. I'm a Jets fan because my dad is a Jets fan. And we got to enjoy all of those games together. We got drunk together. We cried together. We laughed together. And it was all because of guys like Nick Mangold, who put their absolute heart on the line for the team. And he did it with such a joy and such a presence about him that he gave those incredible experiences to me and my dad that we'll cherish for the rest of our life. And it's such a reminder of like how beautiful fandom can be and how beautiful somebody like Nick Mangold giving himself, not just on the field, but off the field to the team really is. So I just wanted to say, just how much I love Nick Mangold, and I'll never forget him, and I'll remember him forever. And just an incredible guy. Make sure you're a donor on your driver's license if you possibly can to get those kidneys out. And what I thought was really cool was the Jets went out and for the first time in the season won a game for Nick Mangold. Really awesome. That was a really beautiful thing. They're down 31-16 in the fourth quarter. Justin Fields plays really well. Breece Hall has the absolute game of the year. I think he had 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter or the second half, whatever it was. He throws a touchdown pass in the back of the end zone to Mason Taylor, and it was reminiscent of one of the Jets' greatest comebacks of all time, the Monday Night Miracle, where Curtis Martin hits Wayne Corbett in the back of the end zone. Another beautiful moment that I shared with my dad. And Aaron Glenn made a great call. They were down 14. He goes for 2 instead of taking the touchdown. That ends up being the call that wins them a game. So just really cool to see the Jets win a game for Nick Mangold and to honor him in that way.
Yeah, really cool. Breece Hall going full LaDainian Tomlinson, and who knows, maybe this takes some of the pressure off of Aaron Glenn a little bit now that they have that first win in the books. Wilk, you got another takeaway?
Yeah, I think the 2-5 Ravens are going to win the AFC North. And
wow.
I was obviously very concerned about this team a couple weeks ago, just a horrific start, and then the injuries really started to hit. But this week's win over the Bears was absolutely massive. You mentioned the defense earlier. I'm not going to get carried away here, but they're quietly trending in the right direction after that rough start. I'm going to go back to one of the stats that you dropped last week, but they're the first team all year to keep the Bears offense under 21 points. Nice. But the big part is that this all sets the stage for Lamar Jackson to make his return on Thursday night against the Dolphins. And, man, they could really start to run off some wins there. I think... Man, I'm just giving T a lot of shout-outs here, but on your waiver wire video today, you mentioned that the Ravens do not play a team with a winning record for the next 5 games. Yep. That's a great opportunity to completely erase their really bad start. The next time they do play a team with a winning record is December 7th against the Steelers, and that takes me to the other side of this, is the Steelers are the team that they're trying to chase down for the AFC North, and I'm really not sure that they're going to be providing much, if any, resistance there. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been fine. I think probably a lot better than most people expected. So the offense has done some okay things, and I do expect them to go out and get a receiver at the deadline. But, man, no matter who they get, I'm not sure that group is going to become a unit that can really carry this team, and that's going to be a problem because the era of the Steelers playing great or even good defense is now over. This is the worst Steelers defense I've ever seen in my lifetime. They are currently 30th in yards allowed. It's really showing that this investment in big-name veterans, they put a ton of money into that roster. It's not paying off. It was risky, and we're seeing the downside of that right now. But even beyond that, this team has been doing the same thing on defense for years. A good chunk of the entire Mike Tomlin era, they do not adjust, and teams are really exposing them for it. So I think that the Ravens have a really clear shot to come all the way back. It looks bad right now at 2-5, but they're only 2 games back of the Steelers. They're going to run off a bunch of wins here, and then they have 2 games against the Steelers in December. So I mean, I think they might even be the betting favorite right now, which
minus like 105.
yeah,
That's
at 2 and 5,
crazy. That's
which
crazy.
is insane. But that kind of shows you like how much firepower this team has and how much I think most of the public doesn't really buy what the Steelers have been doing so far.
Yeah, if we're operating under the assumption that the Steelers are not a good team, the Ravens don't play a good team until week 16 when they play New England. It's crazy how soft the next little while in their schedule is.
Well, the Ravens also, you talk about their schedule, their destiny is in their hands because not only do they have a soft schedule, they play all AFC. They have the Bengals twice, they've got the Steelers twice, they've got the Browns. So their opportunity to not only win games, but to worsen the records of their opponents is right in front of them.
Yeah. Totally. 100%. T, I know you had thoughts about Jonathan Taylor and specifically his MVP candidacy because there's been some buzz going on there given the numbers that he's put up so far. It's been incredible. What do you make of Jonathan Taylor as an MVP candidate?
Yeah, I think the immediate reaction, even from me on Sunday, was like, this is a legitimate. We should start to give consideration to a non-quarterback to win MVP.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to share the numbers because I was just making sure I have these correctly here for you guys. So the 17-game pace for Jonathan Taylor right now, an obscene 30 touchdowns.
Wow.
I when I went, to look at the numbers, I'm like, oh my God, when I extrapolate this to 17 games, this number's really 30. 1,806 yards on the ground, 438 yards receiving, which I thought was pretty impressive. So that puts him over 2,200 yards on the year all-purpose, which would be better than what Saquon Barkley's was all-purpose last year. And Barkley only scored 13 touchdowns, and we're talking about, again, 30 for Jonathan Taylor, and Saquon was third in MVP voting. Here's what I'm going to say, though. So we haven't had the running back win MVP since AP did in 2012. Mm-hmm. But I don't think there's a better example of how important the quarterback position is in the NFL than the Indianapolis Colts in 2025. Because you go look at them last year, and they were 24th in EPA per play. This year with Daniel Jones, they're first in EPA per play. Say what you will about the schedule. I get it. But if you take Jonathan Taylor last year, okay, the last 4 games of the year, he ran for over 600 yards, scored 6 touchdowns, and the Colts were 2-2 in that stretch. So what's changed about this team? Daniel Jones and Tyler Warren. Like, this offensive line was still here. It was still elite last year. It continues to be elite this year. Jonathan Taylor is a fantastic talent, but I do think that there's a reason why Daniel Jones is plus 1,400 right now, the score bet to an MVP, and Jonathan Taylor is plus 1,600. Jonathan Taylor is the runaway offensive player of the year. But at the end of the day, the most important position to team success is quarterback, and there's no team that exemplifies that more than the Indianapolis Colts do. So as much as Jonathan Taylor has been the best player in the league so far this year, I think MVP, there's a reason it's a quarterback award, and the Colts, again, are exemplifying that.
Last year, Anthony Richardson had
Tyler just like
rating.
he just untaked himself in like the same segment right
I know.
there. My mind is like
It came full circle.
Yeah,
He worked his way through
I was
it.
like, hell yeah, Jonathan Taylor should be MVP. Then by the end, I was like, wait, no, he doesn't deserve to win MVP.
I believe I said the exact same thing when we were talking about Saquon's MVP case last year, is that this is just a product of the name of the award, and we focus so much on value that naturally it just ends up being quarterbacks. When I think the general spirit of the highest individual honor for a sport is like the best player, right? Like that's what it should be. I mean, like even going in baseball, like Mike Trout should have won a bunch of times where he didn't because they didn't make the playoffs, and that's a little silly because it doesn't really, like, the resume should be that he was the best player in baseball, right?
That's one of my hot takes. I think all leagues should change MVP to MOP. It should be most outstanding player.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing about the CFL. I'm not a CFL guy, but I like the fact that they do most outstanding player because it should just be the best player, and that's a way to recognize that rather than having the MVP just be strictly a quarterback award.
And you can be like, how many mops do you have in
Yeah,
your
yeah,
career?
yeah,
You know, it's a really good acronym.
True.
Yeah.
Got to get that mop. Zach, I know you got one more takeaway.
Yeah, just really quickly, I just want to say the Green Bay Packers are a boa constrictor. I am loving the way that they are winning games lately. They kind of got off to a slow start when they last played on Sunday night against Aaron Rodgers. The running game really wasn't super effective in the beginning. It was still a close game. I think they were losing by halftime, but then eventually it all starts to like cave in where not only did Josh Jacobs start going, but Emmanuel Wilson already also started running the ball really well. Jordan Love completes 20 straight passes, and they're just like darting you to death. And then where the real boa constrictor comes in is by the end of the game, because the way they use Micah Parsons by subbing him out early in the game in running downs and waiting for him at the end of the game to absolutely pounce on teams, that's when they constrict you and start to choke the life out of you. Micah Parsons becomes such a game changer at the end of the game. He's a leader for Defensive Player of the Year in my mind, no question. They have him moving in different situations. There were plays where he's basically blitzing out of middle linebacker on Sunday's game and then allowing for other players to have sacks. And I think it's a really Super Bowl winning formula to be a team that is an absolute closer, and the Packers are absolute closers.
I don't know why Micah Parsons is the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year, if I'm being honest. Myles Garrett had 5 sacks on Sunday. I know Micah Parsons makes a major impact defensively, but this entire defense is playing really well. I was so critical of their, like, who were they were employing in the secondary. Carrington Valentine had a great game on Sunday night too. But
Keyshawn Nixon had a couple great games early in the season. Their safeties are really, really good.
Yeah, I was very happy with the fact that Christian Watson was back, and they immediately gave him kind of a full workload because this team desperately needs a number one receiver. Maybe Watson is prepared to be that guy. I mean,
honestly, I don't know that anyone on that team is a number one receiver right now, but I think the big thing is just the ability or the willingness to just push the ball downfield. Mm-hmm. Like, you have one of the best quarterbacks at that in the NFL, just in terms of arm talent, aggressiveness, and just the ability to execute those throws. And I think that when Watson returned, you saw them kind of open things up a little bit more, and the entire offense was clicking better as a result. So
Rashawn Gary said it best. Jordan Love is him.
He's him.
He's very him.
Last point, I didn't mention Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft was Kittle-esque on Sunday night. He's not just a flash in the pan tight end. He's an excellent, excellent player.
It was National Tight End Day, and the man had to show out.
He's their number one for sure. Number one pass catcher.
Which is probably troubling.
I think it's a little bit, yeah. When you're like, your quarterback, like Dan said, is such a, like, his deep balls is his best attribute. I wish you
need someone that can connect with him on those. All right, great stuff. Gents, we're almost halfway into the season. I know it's hard to believe, but that means that teams now have a decent sample of performance data to parse from their 2025 NFL draft selections. I think it's fair to say that this year's rookie class has generally underwhelmed, but obviously some guys have underwhelmed more than others. With that being said, I want to give you guys an opportunity to assess the early returns from the top 10 picks of the 2025 draft and tell me 8 games into this class's rookie season, which teams that selected in the top 10 would want a do-over of their pick. Let's kick things off with the old 1-1. Cam Ward.
So we can object if we don't like a pick that's coming up.
Yeah, if you think it should be a do-over, let's call out do-over.
All right.
Cam Ward, quarterback, going to the Tennessee Titans first overall. Do-over or no do-over?
Do-over.
Oh, do-over?
No. Do-over in a major spot.
Go.
I mean, the Tennessee Titans obviously are an absolutely terrible team. But here's the thing. You want to know how you be right on quarterback evaluations more often than you're wrong? Say the guy sucks. Because it turns out that most of these guys suck. And the fact is, the odds say that Cam Ward probably sucks. He hasn't been good this year, and it's like, oh, well, maybe he could be good. Oh, maybe the team's not going to be good. The fact is, most of the guys suck. And are very bad, or can't throw the ball properly, or they're inaccurate. And I think Cam Ward, I just think he's one of those guys. So I'll take.
So let me pretend that I agree with you, because I just don't. Who should the Titans take instead?
Take any of these players.
Give me a guy.
Abdul Carter.
Fair. I mean, they could use a pass rusher. Sure, they could use a lot of positions on this team, but the most important position is quarterback, and I don't think there's any way we could possibly judge the sample size from Cam Ward. I mean, he's throwing to Chamari DK and Elikai Omena are there. Both fourth-round picks they took this year. That was their number 1 and number 2 guys on Sunday in receiving.
Yeah, I've seen it. I saw enough things from him early in the season where I was like, oh yeah, that's why he was the number 1 pick. And the season as a whole is not going to end well, and the concern would be that him playing in such a brutal situation is going to impact his development, so they can't allow that to happen. That's why I kind of expect they won't trade receivers and won't trade offensive linemen, because his development is the priority from here. But yeah, I'm with you. I think he hasn't really had much of a chance, and we gotta give him time before we make it.
But that's the thing. I'm very nervous that he could end up on a career trajectory that resembles that of Bryce Young, where it's like he gets taken first overall into a bad situation and he just stagnates. He does not take the steps forward.
I think that Cam and Bryce are so different in that Cam is very much more mature at the stage in which he comes into his rookie year. Like, he's a very experienced guy, had played with talent that doesn't match the competition they play, whether it was time at Washington State, whether it was time at Miami, where Bryce had been in such a easy environment for success. I think Cam can handle this type of situation pretty well.
Okay, let's move on. At number 2, Travis Hunter, wide receiver / defensive back to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Do-over or no do-over?
I don't want us to run too long on this, and we're just going to do this for every pick, but I do ultimately would have to say that this is a do-over that the Jacksonville would want to have back. Because you look at the GM after they made the selection saying that Travis Hunter would change the trajectory of the sport. And that's not the way in which he's being utilized or performing so far. And you have to take into account what it took for them to be able to make this selection. Cleveland goes out and turns the trade into a first-round pick for the coming year, and as well as Mason Graham and Quinshaw Judkins. And you drafted Travis Hunter to be... You thought you were getting 2 players in 1 pick.
Yeah, a transformative player.
And the Cleveland Browns are proving they did that with your selection already. And they haven't even made the second first-round pick. I like Travis Hunter. I think Travis Hunter, I talked about it before the season, I thought Travis Hunter was capable of playing 100-plus snaps a game in the NFL.
Hasn't happened once
and it's proven that Jacksonville's not willing to do that. But I think it's a little bit silly when we look at the impact that he can have on both sides of the ball and the fact that he's probably not an elite player at either side, but he's fully capable of being on the field to that degree. We saw him play a ton 2 weeks ago. He had 51 routes run at receiver. He tied for the team lead there. He was on the field consistently. He's on the field the 3rd most of any rookie wide receiver this season. They're playing him a lot at receiver. Him playing so much at receiver has resulted in he played like 14 snaps at corner. I think that Travis Hunter is not being utilized in the way in which you would trade up to make his selection. And I think that for Jacksonville, it just doesn't make a lot of sense so far 8 weeks into his career.
I wouldn't say do-over, at least not yet. But on one hand, I do think that over the next few weeks or till the end of the season, these questions about him are going to start to quiet down, because I think the Jags are in a position where they are going to start featuring him on offense quite a bit. Yep. There's been a lot of talk about that, and I think he's going to fare quite well. I mean, he hasn't done it yet so far, but we've seen little flashes, whether it was the big play down the field against the Chiefs, was it, on the Monday night?
Yep.
And just a lot of the underneath plays where he gets the ball in his hands and you're just like, that guy moves differently. Yeah. Like he's a different athlete. And yeah, of course, I would say that if he doesn't become the full-time receiver and corner, the Shohei Ohtani of the NFL, like everyone was talking about, then yeah, there's probably some regret about investing 2 first-round picks in that guy. But I will say, I think that was just a lot to ask of someone so soon. I do think it's still on the table because he's that unique of an athlete. But if you want to get there, I think it's going to take time, because asking a rookie to come in and learn 1 position is hard enough. But 2, it was always going to be ridiculous. So not yet, but if he only settles into 1 position long term, then I think that it would be tough to justify the 2 first-round picks.
What do you think is more likely? Okay, because I was going back and forth on this, that he could play let's just play exclusively, pretty much, maybe something similar to what we saw in London or wherever the hell they were in the morning there 2 weeks ago. That kind of usage where you're just on the field consistently at receiver, and maybe we'll play you for a few snaps a game, defensive back, and we fully invest in receiver, and maybe next year we take a completely opposite approach. We play the long-term game of year 3 Travis Hunter. He's doing everything. We're seeing the best version of himself, and we're going to be comfortable being patient with that. Is it more likely that he gets to the point where he's that guy and playing that much on both sides of the ball, or is it more likely that he's just consistently playing receiver and never really plays much corner?
Well, if you ask more likely, I would say, since no one has
pretty
ever done it,
extremes,
I think it's
significant
more
extremes.
likely he becomes...
I guess maybe what's more likely, that they invest in that type of player or do they relent and say, we're just going to play you on one side of the ball?
I don't think they'll be doing that anytime soon. I think that they will focus, and he will essentially be a full-time receiver, but as they go, as he gets more comfortable at the NFL level, I think that eventually he'll start to have a little bit more of a role on the defensive side. I don't think it'll ever be full-time on both sides of the ball, but I think ideally you're looking at like almost full-time receiver, just like most receivers would be, like 80, 90% of receiver snaps. And then defensively, maybe you're only playing third down situations. So you're not out there like tackling running backs coming off the edge, right? Yeah. I think that that's the ideal situation, but no, I don't expect him to ever be like playing 100 snaps a game like we had talked about.
Yeah, it's it's not typical of me to be this so unmeasured, but I really think that there's this. It has nothing to do with analytics, numbers, anything. Of just if Travis Hunter is always on the field, that is his most locked in the zone version of himself, and where you get potentially get the best player on both sides of the ball.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
Third overall pick was Abdul Carter, defensive end to the New York Giants. Do-over or no do-over?
No.
That one's easy, no.
All right, simple enough. Fourth overall, Will Campbell, offensive tackle to the New England Patriots. Do-over, no do-over?
No, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
I like Will Campbell.
Yeah, love his vibe. And obviously, you can't quibble with anything the Patriots are doing right now. Fifth overall, Mason Graham, defensive tackle to the Browns. Do-over, no do-over?
So many people thought it was a bit of a weird position for them to take, but man, God, he's been really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Moving on. Sixth overall.
What are you looking at me for?
No reason in particular. Ashton Genty, running back to the Las Vegas Raiders. Do-over or no do-over?
Yeah, I mean, this is a do-over.
What do we have here? My team involved in a running back debate. This is the perfect storm.
So let's make this just
Shout out
quick and
Darren
simple.
McFadden.
Quick and simple is the Raiders roster is not one that should be selecting a running back at the 6th overall pick. I did have this kind of same thought when Detroit picked Jahmyr Gibbs, and Ashton Genty's the same talent. I won't deny that. But there's a lot of other places this team could fill some voids, like an Armand Membu. Maybe it's a do-it-all type of defensive player like a Walker or Michael Williams rushing the passer on the opposite side with Mason Crosby getting older.
Max Crosby out there running some good routes.
Yeah, I think they shouldn't have been looking at flashy positions. I think there should have been
they
some
don't
folks in the
feel
trenches.
ready to be
building
out
this
the
is no
skill
do-over for
positions.
me. No do-over.
No do-over.
You stick with Genty.
No, I'm so tired of the running back thing, man. It's never gonna go away, and I get it. I understand the take of people saying, "Look, this roster wasn't ready for a running back. It wasn't a running back away, so there's no point in investing when you need like offensive linemen." I understand that, but one, I think we all agree Genty is an extremely unique talent. Mm-hmm. He was never drafted for it to be like, all right, here we go. This is the year.
Yeah.
So when they have him here long-term, ideally, and then next year, if you go draft the offensive lineman that everyone said was the smart thing to do this year, what's the difference? Are you getting that like dynamic playmaker at the top of next year's draft, the same as Ashton Genty, or at least who we think he is? And I think honestly, he has shown to be so far, despite a pretty unfavorable situation with that offense. I just don't look at running backs as negatively as other people do, and everything I've seen out of Genty tells me he is exactly the player that I thought he was coming out. So I honestly don't have a problem with this pick. It's more so just expectations of what this team was going to be, and I'll admit I thought they would be better than they have been. But that doesn't mean they're not still going to get value out of him over the course of his rookie contract and ideally another long-term deal after that.
Yeah, if Wilk isn't excoriating the Raiders for like a big decision, then it's probably a sound move. Let's move on. 7th overall, Armand Membu, offensive tackle to the New York Jets. Do-over or no do-over?
Great pick.
Love
no
that
do-over.
pick. Love that.
Unanimous. 8th overall, Teteroa McMillan, wide receiver, Carolina Panthers. Good do-over or no do-over?
He's a good player.
I think if we wanted to nitpick, we could say that Egbuka has been the more immediate star receiver, but I have no problem with picking T-Mac at 8. I think he's been quite good, and I think he profiles as the number one that we thought he'd be.
Yeah, I don't know if Egbuka's like skill set and it's like this is what.
I think this was always going to be a great
We'd also be
set.
talking a lot differently about Ted McMillan if he was playing on the Buccaneers as opposed to playing on the Panthers.
For sure. 9th overall, Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle to the New Orleans Saints. Do-over or no do-over?
I think Banks has been fine.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, sure.
All right. And last but not least, Colston Loveland, tight end to the Chicago Bears. Do-over or no do-over?
Obvious do-over. obvious do-over. I said this at the time, but when we did our biggest like takeaways, reactions from the NFL draft, the fact that they took Loveland over Tyler Warren was crazy. And I get it's like, oh, it's Ben Johnson's offense, and he's like got a fit in mind. It's like, drop some new plays, Ben, because Tyler Warren is way better than Colston Loveland. He was in college. He is now. He always will be.
That's the part I'm not really there with, though. Like, I don't even think this has... For me, I would do this over because I just wouldn't draft... Like, I get the importance of tight end for Ben Johnson's offense, but, I mean, you could have had a pass rusher to run opposite of Sweat. Obviously, you're not going to expect your secondary to be in this horrid position they're in right now, but maybe even a Tyler Booker, like, at the guard spot, which would be a bit of a reach at 10. But I think there's just another position this team could have gone to than tight end.
Yeah, I mean, based on what we've seen so far, I think you would have to say do-over because it would be very easy to just say draft Tyler Warren instead. He's been better. However, I think it's worth pointing out that it's very early here, and it's extremely on the table that Loveland ends up being just as good as Tyler Warren is. I actually had Loveland ranked above Tyler Warren in my pre-draft rankings. I thought he was a lot like Darren Waller. I think over time he has a good chance of proving to be that kind of player. I think he's that dynamic of a receiver. But it's been a slow start for him. He got hurt. He missed some time. I think that he's going to kind of take off down the stretch and make that a little bit closer of a debate than it's been so far.
I agree with that. I do think Loveland is a really good player. But I also see where, like, I think the other part of it is where he is in the pecking order of, like, I would assume the Bears were pretty high on a Roma Dunze breakout. You know, they take Luther Burden in the second, who I think, as his role grows, is I think a really talented player. Sure, you probably projected DJ Moore as he ages to take a step back, but there's a lot of options in this offense, which has made it hard for Loveland to be able to break out too.
Really quickly, before we move on to our next segment, guys, we got some breaking news. The New Orleans Saints are going to make Tyler Shuck their new starting quarterback. Spencer Rattler hit the pine. 30 seconds for an analysis of that.
I mean, I don't really think that Rattler was playing bad enough to get benched necessarily, but at the same time, I also kind of understand it from the Saints' perspective. You're 1-6 or 1-7 or whatever they are. You drafted Shuck in the second round, and you're probably going to be in the position to draft a quarterback at the top of next year's draft if you want to. So you might as well get a look at both of these guys to see what you've got. So I get it, but I do think that Rattler has been better than people realize.
Fair enough. Gents, believe it or not, we're only days out from the trade deadline. Wilk, in anticipation of that, I know you recently put out a great piece on the Score outlining 10 realistic deals that you want to see before November 4th. If you would, walk us through some of those prospective swaps. And fellas, I want to hear your opinion on them.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple, and you guys can just tell me who says no. I'll start with one that I think is maybe the most interesting. Stop me if you've heard this before, but the Bills need a wide receiver. Based on
Buffalo Bills?
Yes, that's right. Everything we've seen so far tells me that it is absolutely imperative for them to go get one before the deadline. I think they probably want an established number one. The only problem is that's probably not the type of guy who's going to be available. So I have them going for the second best thing and going out and getting the type of field stretcher that I don't think they've really had in this offense for as long as Josh Allen's been there, at least not with this kind of speed. So I've got them sending a third-round pick to the Saints in exchange for Rashid Shaheed and a sixth.
Who says no?
I was big on this team need to make an upgrade, but I just wonder if the Bills would be willing to... Do the Bills see Rashid Shaheed as the type of talent to give up a third-round pick for him and then kick Keon Coleman off the field a little bit more? I like Shaheed. I think he's a good fit.
Yeah.
But I just wonder about the compensation, I guess.
Didn't Devontae command a third-rounder last year?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a weird situation. Like the market tends to affect these prices in weird ways. I mean, you look back to, it was a long time ago now, but like, remember that year? I mean, you might be too young. When Mohamed Sanu got traded for a second-round pick? There's a lot of weird prices at the deadline. This one would technically be considered like a borderline third, fourth if they're also getting a sixth back. But yeah, I think that they're in a position where, based on what we've seen from the passing game, and you got to do something. And if you pay up more than you wanted to, I don't care. Like, you got to go try to win a Super Bowl now.
Yeah, and I don't know what the elite wide receiver doesn't seem to be on the market at the moment, unless Brian Thomas apparently might be.
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel like this is mutually agreeable. Honestly,
I love this.
If I had to pick one that says no.
I mean, the Saints have to be happy with Turner.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe the Bills, but
I would say the Bills don't say no, but they say, hey, 4th round pick, and then
exactly.
Let's get it
it's
all
a
done.
good negotiation starting point. Good one, Wilk.
Next one, Lions are looking for a bookend pass rusher for Aiden Hutchinson. They have been for a long time. I would say that now that we're past the point of worrying about whether they're having some sort of drop-off with the coaching changes, it is absolutely time to go all in. This team can win a Super Bowl this year. So I say do that by getting one of the best in the business. Go send a 2nd-round pick to the Bengals for Trey Hendrickson and a 5th.
I don't think either one of these teams should say no, but I have 2 things. One, if the Detroit was not willing to do it last year when they had the coaching staff plus the roster, like what tells me they're willing to do it now?
Yep.
And then the second is, are the Bengals willing to punt on the season with the hypothetical of Joe Burrow returning at some point
I
in the
think
year?
the Lions should want to.
Yeah.
I think that maybe being another year closer to having to pay Trey Hendrickson, maybe you want to like go all in right now. Or sorry, to paying Aiden Hutchinson, you want to go all in right now. I also think that Hendrickson is a unique fit there because you could kind of backload Aiden Hutchinson's deal and fit in another short-term extension for Hendrickson and kind of make it all work for multiple years, not just this year. But yeah, I'm with you in that I don't know that the Bengals are going to do it because the Bengals are the Bengals and they just operate differently.
AFC North is also kind of vulnerable.
Yeah.
That's
They
the thing.
also just
I
lost
think
the
the
Jets.
Bengals say
We got to have some sort of like self-scouting and understand
I
that
know.
you are not going anywhere and get the picks that you need, but it's the Bengals.
Yeah,
so
that
who
has never
knows?
been their strength. I feel like the Bengals would say no to this.
We say no if we were the Bengals, but the
Yes.
Bengals would say no.
Right.
Or we say yes.
We say yes.
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 Third one, the Chiefs have a lot of running backs, but do they have a good running back? We know how dangerous this passing game is, obviously, especially since that the receiving core is back at full strength. I think that if they were to add the type of runner who could give them some consistently explosive plays, the kind of thing that they have not really had in this offense in quite a long time, I think it makes the scoring attack pretty much unstoppable, right? I think there is that type of guy who could be available on a team that is not currently maximizing his situation. Sorry, Zach. But I've got the Chiefs sending a 4th-round pick to the Jets for Breece Hall and a 2027 5th.
The Jets need to say no to this. They need to say no to this.
Are they going to pay him? He's a free agent at the end of the year.
They should absolutely pay him because a lot of
Will they, though?
I think they will. He's such a dynamic player, and I think his performance coming off last week shows you what he can do. I think there's a lot of misconceptions around Breece Hall's relationship with the Jets. He actually did say that he wants to be back with the Jets, so I do think he's amenable to signing a new contract. A lot of times you see him post free 20 on Instagram and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What he's referencing is he wants more touches.
Yeah,
He
let me
wants
eat,
more
yeah.
carries. That's what he wants.
Yeah.
He just wants the ball. So I think that last week showed a dedication towards them wanting to give him the ball, and I think it means a lot that they did it the week before the trade deadline. And I think they're showing their hand a little bit in saying we do want Breece Hall to be around here. I think they say no, especially at this price point, to only move up a round in the draft. You at least give Muji the opportunity to figure out what he wants to do at the end of the year.
It's definitely from your perspective, Zach. I agree that if you deal Breece Hall and you're going to go into the next season with Braylon Allen, who hasn't really shown you too much, it's really a Jets offense that's taking quite a nosedive downgrade. But at the same time, we were talking about Kansas City. This is a no-brainer for them, in my opinion, because the run game stinks.
Yeah.
And if you don't take advantage of this market for Breece Hall when it comes to KC, the Chargers are another team that could be desperate.
Yeah.
I think it'd be silly for New York to not try to potentially even extract more value than
Well,
this.
I was going to
honestly.
say, if the Jets say yes to this, it's got to be for a 3rd-round pick, and the 5th moves to a 6th.
The problem is
That's a little tough.
the running back market, the way it works, an expiring contract for a guy who I like,
Yeah.
who ultimately has not done that much. I think a 3rd-round pick would be considered pretty rich for a running back who's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. But
yeah,
I mean,
The 4th is, I think they'd want to turn the 4th, a 7th into a 4th maybe. That's a tiny adjustment, but
I got 2 more for you. So mentioned earlier that I think the Steelers need to go out and get a receiver. I think there's a guy out there who could be a really good fit, someone who I see as one of the more underrated receivers in the league. Really good route runner, reliable at the catch point. And something that's critical for a fit in Arthur Smith's offense is he's also a really good blocker. I think that he could be a really nice number 2 alongside DK Metcalf, maybe free up DK to be more of a vertical receiver, which I think that this offense needs. So with that in mind, I've got the Steelers sending a 4th-round pick to the Raiders for Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, I think
they both agree to
Shake
this.
hands, move on.
Yeah.
Like, there you go. That's
I honestly don't know
both
how it
sides.
hasn't happened already. Maybe it'll happen while we're still filming the show.
It's true. Maybe it has, and I'm just not on Twitter. It's pretty impressive that he has so quietly put up 800-plus receiving yards in, 4 straight seasons?
Yeah.
He's on pace for a 5th.
Yeah.
Really steady player.
And all right, save the last one, save the biggest and most complicated for last. So bear with me here, but I think the Cowboys have to make a big move on defense. In my mind, you just can't let this offense go to waste. And I know that Jerry Jones isn't known for his bold moves. He's known for kind of sitting back and just favoring business over football. But with that in mind, I just can't imagine him allowing the headlines to be that the Micah Parsons trade resulted in the Cowboys having the worst scoring defense in franchise history. You have to do something. So trying to get a little creative, I wanted to do a 2-for-1. So I've got the Cowboys sending a 2nd-rounder, a 4th-rounder, a future 4th to the Dolphins for Minkah Fitzpatrick, Jalen Phillips, and a 3rd. So basically what you're looking at is going from a 2nd round back to the 3rd and 2 4th-round picks for Minkah Fitzpatrick and Jalen Phillips. Gets them a playmaker on the back end, which they do not have, and a pass rusher to bolster the defensive front.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's, as I think about it, I don't think they're giving up too much to make that happen, because everyone's talking about turning, one of these 1st-round picks into a Max Crosby, which I think is tough. I mean, I get it from a financial perspective of bringing a big talent without, or bringing in the big talent without spending the Micah Parsons type of money.
Yeah.
I think
it would definitely make them better for sure. But it's just how much do those 2 players have left to give to Dallas? How much does that elevate their defense? How good do I think Jalen Phillips still is?
I think that's a fair question about Minkah. I don't know how much he would elevate the back end. I think he would be an upgrade at the very least. But I think that Phillips is the kind of guy who I loved coming out of UCLA. I think he's
just the injuries have just been tough for him.
I tend to just want to give guys like that a shot to reach their potential. And for the price tag, if I'm Dallas, I would take that swing because we've talked about it so much. This offense is incredible with the receiver tandem. Dak Prescott's playing like an MVP. So I know they're 3-4-1 or whatever it is right now, but I would still be aggressive if I were them to not let that go to waste.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing that, Wilk. That was great. Boys, before we go home, let's look ahead to week 9. And since week 8 was so chalky, I want to know what upsets you guys foresee this coming week. Wilk, what do you got?
I'm going to take the Giants over the 49ers. I think that could probably sound...
they did just lose to Houston.
Yeah. It could sound a little silly by Monday morning, but when I'm looking for upsets around the league, I tend to focus on matchups where I think that a really talented defensive line could just overwhelm another team's offensive front. I think that's kind of what we've got here. Obviously, we know all about the pass rushers that the Giants have. Last week's game against the Texans, which you mentioned, was just kind of a reminder of the 49ers' shortcomings up front. Yeah. I think that the Giants are a little undermanned now, even more so than they already were. They were missing Malik Neighbors, and now they're going to be without Cam Scatterboot, so that hurts.
Devastating.
But the 49ers defense is starting to show some cracks now, being without Nick Bosa and Fred Warner for the rest of the season. They were the first team all season to not get to C.J. Stroud for a single sack. So I do think that there's a possibility that Jackson Dart makes a couple plays that can then help the Giants steal one.
Like it. T, you got an upset?
I put this in with I put this on the dock with just a quick thought on going through the games who I think could upset. And I took the Falcons over the Patriots.
The Falcons, whose offense is the biggest disappointment in the league?
What was your first take on the show again?
So here was my initial thought was, well, the Falcons' pass defense has been terrific. They can't really stop the run, but not a problem because the Patriots can't run the football. So defensive focus would be on the pass game, and I think they've proven to do a good job. Then I get into this. This is too nerdy, but basically, the Falcons blitz at the highest rate in the league, and they play a ton of man coverage. And boy, oh boy, has Drake May made a lot of teams look silly when they do that. When opponents blitz Drake May, 77% completion percentage.
Wow.
Second in the league. 8.1 yards per attempt, 8th in the league. 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, only 1 turnover-worthy play. This blew my mind even more. So cover 1 is really a lot of what Atlanta plays defensively in their man coverage looks. 79% completion percentage, 12.4 yards per attempt. That's first in the league. And a quarterback rating of 149.3, which leads the league as well. And like Stephon Diggs has been an animal against man so far this year. So I think I'm dumb. I think I'm really dumb. Once I got into the numbers, I'm like, this is a crazy thought. But the Falcons have been a super inconsistent team. I could get them on a good week here. I think this is the biggest test offensively that the Patriots have had all year. I know they played the Browns last week, but I think the Falcons, in terms of defending what this team does best, which is the pass game, the Falcons are better equipped. I think we could see a bounce-back performance from their defense. And if they get Michael Penix and Drake London back, I think this offense could potentially get going. This Patriots team has not allowed a 50-yard rusher in all 8 weeks of the season. Hasn't happened since 1950. But Bijan Robinson is a completely different animal than what they faced so far this year. I think the Falcons could potentially surprise. So I found a way to get back and sell myself on it.
I don't think you fully understood the assignment, but that's okay. Zachy, you got an upset for us?
Yeah, I do. I kind of went at this one from like my like a bettor's mind perspective, like how I bet, which is ineffectively. And I was just I went with the Steelers over the Colts because. Ready for this high octane analysis that you got right here? Because look, come on, man, the Colts can't keep winning.
I honestly like that take. I kind of like that.
That is why I'm taking the Steelers.
I thought you were going to say that you were taking them because the Steelers have the longest odds of any team.
No.
Okay, so they don't. All right.
No. It's not even. I don't even. That might be true, but I don't even know that. It's just like, come on, the Colts are due to drop one.
Aaron Rodgers could cook in this game.
Yeah, you could just. The Colts are due to drop one.
I don't.
That's
disagree.
all I got.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Regression has to be coming for the Daniel Jones helmed juggernaut. Great stuff, fellas. Really quickly, this is the last thing, I swear. I just want to give you guys an opportunity to talk about the forthcoming Bills-Chiefs game. It's always cinema when these two teams play. This will be the first time they clash since last year's AFC Championship game. Both teams come in 1 win back of first place in their respective divisions. What should we expect on Sunday from these two rivals?
I'm not sure it's going to be all that close.
Really?
I think the Chiefs are really turning it on right now.
They're
The
rolling.
offense is looking incredible, and the Bills have some problems, man. I know they were awesome this week.
They stuck it to Carolina.
Yeah, the run game got going against the Panthers, but man, they're going to need the pass offense to be, or the passing attack to be different than it has been so far, and I think it's going to take a trade to do that. And unless a trade's coming in right now, which I don't see it, they're probably not going to have another receiver in there for this big matchup. So I think what might happen is they lose this big game. We have a lot more questions about the team, and then they make the big deal on Monday before the deadline.
Yeah, this is like carbon copy. The Chiefs can just operate the same style defensively that Atlanta did. They play a lot of man. They like to blitz. And these Coleman and Shakir have just not been good in man-to-man coverage. We talked about Josh Allen and his struggles against the blitz and how many sacks he's taken so far this year. The Chiefs have been really good against the run. Like, they shut down the Lions' run game. They haven't given up much of anything the last 4 or 5 weeks. I've been really impressed that way. And then you look at the other side, and we see Ed Oliver is going to be out for the year. Yeah. They didn't have Daquan Jones last week. Hopefully he's back because they really need something up there in the middle of the defensive line. And then the Bills are the worst tackling team in the league. And right now, with Rashee Rice back, I know their run game can't really take advantage of the Bills' lack of ability to stop the run. Yeah. But like this team, yards after the catch wise, is just
their quick hit passing
right
game
now.
is going to be their run game.
Yeah, and the Bills can't tackle, so that's like a major mismatch. So this could be, I do agree with you. A lot of this would point to the Chiefs blowing them out, but maybe the Bills' run game, maybe the Chiefs' run defense isn't as good as it's looked in recent weeks, but that would be their only hope.
Well, I'll say this: this isn't exactly, the juiciest breaking news, but apparently Bills quarterback Josh Allen just started following Rashid Shaheed on Instagram. So make of that what you will.
Wow.
Wilkie the Oracle.
Get him in for this week. They could really use him.
Absolutely. We still got time until Sunday. We do not have any more time on today's episode of No Timeouts. Once again, that is Zak McDonald. That's Dan Wilkins. That's Tyler MacKillop. My name is Jonah Birenbaum. We'll see you next time.